Welcome to the 1045 The Team Facebook page. This is the launch of Onorato and Bagnardi. Chris Onorato, Sean Bagnardi, long time in the making here, and happy to be having this happen the day before the NCAA tournament starts in earnest. I know we had the playing games Tuesday, and we'll have some tonight too, which we'll all watch, I know, but Thursday is when everything really gets going. So we'll get you set with the brackets. We've got a special guest coming up who can really get a deep dive into the teams playing and can tell us why our picks are probably wrong.
Probably wrong.
Yeah.
Almost always wrong.
Right. But we're not different. I mean,
No.
Anybody who claims like they're experts at picking teams in the NCAA tournament just gets lucky.
Yeah, you know what
so
I love?
don't listen to those people at work who claim, "Oh, I knew." They didn't.
I listen to like 10 different experts.
Yeah.
And they're all different. So
Sure.
are there any experts? I guess we'll see afterward, right?
It's all opinion based, but we'll give you some of our upsets along the way. Jordan Sperber, who you may know, who is a Bethlehem grad, went to Villanova, and now has a really cool book and a great Twitter following about the analytics of basketball. So we'll get into a lot of that with him. But one segment we're going to do every single week is called 0, 50, or 100, and because we're on TV, can be seen, we figured we got to do something visual, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
we have whiteboards.
Yeah. You know what I love about this?
Instead of just saying 0, 50, or 100, we're going to write it down.
Right.
Yeah.
See, what I love is you said to me, Sean, I got this project at the radio station.
Yeah.
Want you to be a part of it. I was like, that's great. I would love to be on the radio. And you said, no, you know what? It's not actually on the
So
radio.
they're not going to put us on the
no.
radio.
He says, not on the radio. It's more of a TV kind of thing. I said, that's great. I'd love to be on TV with you.
Sure.
He said, no,
Yeah.
it's not on TV.
Right, so it's kind of like sports
Yeah.
talk on the radio, and it's almost like TV,
Right.
but it's on the internet. Which I
Yes.
think, and I'm going to look to Doug for this, and we've got thank yous to hand out here before the show is over. We'll take you up till about 1 o'clock. I think because we're on the internet, Doug, we can say pretty much anything we want, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, thumbs up. I love
so
it.
Doug says yes because he's not the one who would get fired.
And can we do a little shout out here on this set here, this set design? Yeah.
Elevation 10,000. Yeah. Check them out. They're in Latham. They really built this set for us. I mean, it all came together because of the background they designed and the logo and the sign. Elevation 10,000. Dave McGillette over there, a great team. Adam was here yesterday helping us out. It looks awesome.
Down
It
to the
looks
mugs.
awesome. And the mugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I filled it. It's only water.
That's too bad.
For now.
All right, let's do it. Let's do 0, 50, or 100. We'll do this every single show. And basically, Brian Mariano, who you know from the radio side, is going to throw out statements to us. And then we have to decide, is it a big deal or not? So from 0 to 50 to 100, is it a big deal or not? And if we're going to ride the fence and hedge our bet a little bit, we can go 50. But you might get thrown off the show.
So
for it.
0 is no big deal. 100, big deal.
Yeah, see how difficult that is?
Look, I want the viewers to understand.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it, Brian. First one.
All right, guys, we'll start out 0, 50, or 100. We'll start off with New York Yankees pitcher Luis Severino is out until May. Big deal or no big deal?
You going vertical or?
I'm going horizontal, and that is a fat 0. A fat 0. Not a big deal at all. Wow.
I went 0.
All right,
Go you first.
Here's my reasoning. Severino out until May. Good. Give him longer to get the strength back up. We've seen him tail off at the end of regular seasons and postseasons in the past. He starts the regular season a little bit later. That means he's got maybe a month or two left in the arm when all's said and done. This is a Yankees team that should be making a deep run into October. I say 0 big deal.
Yeah, we're not talking about a guy coming back after the All-Star break or something like that, right? I mean, it's 162 games in a season. Just about every team you would expect is going to have to deal with injuries to some degree, okay? And yeah, you got some division games early on. You know, you'd like him out there for certain matchups.
But they're easy. It's like 13 against Baltimore early on.
Right. So, of course, this is no big deal. It's out until May. How many starts is that going to be?
2, 3,
Okay.
maybe.
So what are we talking about here?
No big. Well, the bigger concern, right, if they're Yankees fans watching us, the bigger concern is that we don't really know what's to the degree behind this injury, right? You hold your breath when you start talking about pitchers being injured and missing up to a month.
All right, but if it's a bigger deal, isn't it more than a month?
Probably.
Okay.
All right. Number 2.
Move on to number 2, guys. 050 or 100. The Arizona Cardinals are meeting with Kyler Murray this week. Big deal or no big deal?
Boy, you know what? I'll be the first idiot to do it. That's a 50. It's a 50. Here's the thing. It's a big deal because they drafted a quarterback in the first round last year, top 10, Josh Rosen. It's a big deal because then they'd have to find a way to move Rosen, and what are they going to get for him? It's a big deal because Kyler Murray is 5'9" at absolute best. Can he play the quarterback position in the NFL to begin with, and then is he worth a number 1 pick? It's not a big deal because this is the time of year where NFL teams do whatever they can to gain some leverage. Hey, look at us over here. We're meeting with Kyler Murray. We might draft him number 1 unless you come get the pick from us. So big deal because they might really do this. Not a big deal because I think for the most part teams around this time of year, smoke and mirrors type stuff.
Boom. I think you nailed it with the smoke and mirrors. This is a 0. It's no big deal. And also, look, there may be some gamesmanship, as you would say, but also this is what they're supposed to do, right? I mean, you're supposed to meet with guys, supposed to kind of explore the options. You don't think so?
What is Kyler Murray going to tell them in a meeting they don't already know?
They don't know until they meet with him, right? I mean,
you know how much I hate meetings.
Yeah, but look, I think it does come down to some gamesmanship and, like you say, maybe some smoke and mirrors. You can do something with something else in mind, right? So, yeah, it's no big deal.
If you're just joining us, Chris Onorato, Sean Bagnardi. This is Onorato and Bagnardi on the 104.5 The Team ESPN Radio Facebook page. We are playing 050 or 100. It's a segment we'll do every week here. We're on every Wednesday afternoon at noon, and we're getting you ready for the NCAA tournament today. But Brian Mariano's throwing out these statements at us. We're deciding big deal or not.
Now, you said we're going to do it every week. What if all the comments are that was stupid?
We'll still do it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Gonna bring it back despite the comments.
Well, sure. Do you listen to the viewers in the...
I think you should, yeah.
Maybe
okay.
we'll mess with it a little bit.
Look, you paid for the whiteboard. We're doing it a few times.
Number 3.
Number 3, guys, 050 or 100. The Cleveland Browns are favored to win the AFC North. Are you guys buying in on the Cleveland Browns?
Go ahead, Shawnee.
All right,
You're
want me to go first this
man.
time? All right.
You are Mr. Cleveland Brown all of a sudden.
Well, I'm not Mr. Cleveland Brown, but
I'll go first.
Browns.
It's 100. 100. I'm buying in absolutely. Look at what hit the Steelers have taken this offseason. Now, I know they didn't have Bell last year, and they were still okay, but they didn't make the playoffs. And now Antonio Brown's gone. Big Ben's another year older. The Steelers have chosen to invest in an older quarterback as opposed to Brown or Bell. I'm out on Pittsburgh. I'm 100% in on Cleveland because now you've got 2 of the best wide receivers in all of football, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. I believe Baker Mayfield will even take another step forward to a degree in his second year. And defensively, they've got guys who can get after the quarterback and guys who are good in the secondary. I'm in on Cleveland. Yes, there's no question they should be favored to win the AFC North.
All right, I like what you said, but I'm going 50 here because how long have you been watching football? Your whole life?
Yeah, whole life.
So what, almost 40 years? No, quite that many.
Getting there.
All right.
And yeah, the Browns have always been bad.
Look, it's the Cleveland. If there's one team that can find a way to screw up something good, to screw up Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield, you have to think it's the Cleveland Browns, right? I think they're going to win the division, and I think, honestly, they're more of a threat to New England, right? I think New England, we should be, this question could be, could they win the AFC, okay? But it's the Cleveland Browns, and I just don't know. I don't love their division. I do think they'll win the division, but if one team can find a way to screw it up, it could be the Browns.
Here's the concern. You're throwing in a bunch of, not a bunch, but you have Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham Jr., Hunt's out for the first 8 games of the year, right? So when these guys are all on the same field together, can they coexist? That's going to be the biggest question in my mind. All right, Brian. Hey, this one's after your own heart. Number 4 on 050 or 100.
Yeah, right into my heart as well, Chris. Absolutely. If Duke doesn't win the national championship, it will be a failed season for the Blue Devils, 0, 50, or 100.
All right, you told me to go first last time, then you bullied your way in before I could say anything.
It's taken forever.
Hey, look, I'm a thoughtful guy. I'm going to go with 100. Yeah, it would be a total failed season. I mean, look, we're going to go over the bracket here in just a bit. They've got some tough matchups along the way. You know, they're going to be looking at a Michigan State matchup that could be real tough, and obviously they got to the Final Four, Gonzaga. We're going to get into all that in a little bit, but what else is there? I mean, this is like it's for the Yankees, right? If you don't win the World Series, that's sort of the standard every year for Duke, as long as Coach K is there. And oh, by the way, who's the best player in the country?
Zion Williamson.
Okay, see, the best player in the country, the best coach in the country. You're in a bracket that you should do pretty well, and I know even that second round matchup. Again, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but yeah, that has to be the gold standard for that. You win, or it's not a successful season.
You almost talked me into it, going all the way to 100. I'm going 50 for the second time this segment, 2 out of 4. I'm not happy about it. But I'm going not a failed. I'm going failed season for everything you just brought up. But I'm going not a failed season because look at the success Coach K has had with the one and done players. Now, whether or not they win it or not, I think he's still when juniors, seniors in high school see the fact that R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson and Cam Reddish have all played together and played well, it's only good for Coach K. I know a lot of these guys want to win a title, but what's more important than winning a national championship? Being a really high NBA draft pick.
Sure.
Really high NBA draft pick. When Coach K puts 3 guys in the top 5 or top 6 this year, I mean, what more needs to be said? So I think success based on the outlook of this Duke program. Failure, yeah, if they don't win a national championship. I get that.
All right, so let me ask you this. If you're Coach K, what's better for you, better for the program? Winning a national championship or having, like you say, some guys that will go high in the NBA? Honestly, I mean, just in general, what's better for the program?
Honestly, guys who go high in the NBA.
But do you think that's his mentality?
No, he wants to win titles.
Okay.
He wants to win titles. He wants to be the unquestioned best college coach ever.
Right.
But it's better if you get guys who are high lottery draft picks because they come back, they get money back.
Sure.
They have influence over high school kids.
Absolutely.
So I think it's better if you get guys drafted near the top of the draft. All right, last one for 0, 50, or 100, Brian.
All right, guys, a little off the sports trail here, but the Powerball jackpot is now $550 million, a little more than Mike Trout's salary now. 0, 50, or 100, is that a big deal?
Trout got 430, man.
It's not bad.
430.
It's not bad.
I think I know where you're going here. I'm 100. It's $550 million. After taxes, I take the lump sum. What am I walking away with?
250?
No, you're getting 3 at least.
Okay, maybe. Well, no, because you lose some if you take the lump sum.
Right.
First,
okay.
And then they did all the taxes.
All
they
right.
say about slice it about.
All right.
half.
Give me a quarter. Give me $250 million.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
And I'm out of here, man. You will never see me again. I am set for life. I start a foundation that gives back. I've got more money than I know what to do with. People always say, can you imagine? Yes, I can. I can imagine it all.
So you're out of here if you win it all.
I'll do one more show.
A lot of viewers are really hoping you hit the check.
Do they draw this thing tonight?
Powerball is Wednesday. Yeah, right? Yeah, Wednesday.
They're drawing it tonight. The show ends if I win the Powerball.
Okay. Are you ready for this? This is an absolute squadouche. You see that? It's a total 0. Big deal. 0.
You're telling me $550 million is not a big deal?
That's a lot of money. It's not a big. The odds of you winning this thing, it's probably close to filling out a perfect bracket. I mean, the odds are just ridiculous. You'd have to look it up to see which is actually more, out there as far as having a chance to win. But of course, this is no big deal. You're not going to win it. All right. If you did, it would ruin your life. It would ruin your life. Yeah. Because you have a drive. You have a drive. You have a motivation.
Yeah.
And some of that's financially driven.
Sure.
You take that away. I'm not saying you turn into a bum, but right? Do you want all that money?
No, I don't think you. Well, yeah, I mean, you can want all that money and believe in your mind you're not going to change. I think those people are a little loony.
Yeah, of course.
Everything has to change.
Right.
You probably need personal security.
And isn't there a little part of you that wants to earn the money that you get?
Yeah,
Feel like you
okay.
really worked for it
Sure.
instead of just got lucky?
I picked the right numbers. There you go.
That's luck. That's not work.
All right.
You're not earning it.
But what do you think is more? What's the longer odd? Winning the Powerball on a night like this when everybody's playing,
Sure.
or having the talent of Mike Trout?
I would say there will be more players. Well,
think about the scope of the world's population.
Yeah, there will be more.
And there are like
Mike Trouts.
5 guys in Major League Baseball who are the best.
I mean, it's almost impossible to win the jackpot. Almost impossible. And we see great players all the time. I know he's an exceptionally great player, but I would say that it's more likely that you'll see a great player than win the jackpot like that.
Okay.
I mean, $550 million is a lot, but guess what? Weren't we just talking about $1 billion jackpot?
We were not that long ago, man.
It gets up there now quite a bit because the odds, it's become harder and harder to win.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why it's a zero for me, is that we're going to see big Powerball jackpots, Mega Millions jackpots. We're going to see a lot of this. If
you're just joining us, we're Onorato and Bagnardi. You're watching the 104.5 The Team Facebook page. Check us out online as well, 1045theteam.com, where we've got all the great on-air and online content for you. The business of the day is the NCAA tournament.
Sure.
And we've got a great guest with us here today. Before we do that, though, Shawnee, I want to let you know we are brought to you by Mr. Formal Wear, and it was a couple years ago. You'll love this. So I'm in dire need of a tuxedo. I was asked to do a black tie event, not last minute, but I put it off a little bit, and then in like 4 days, I needed a tux.
So you put it off a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Okay.
So I Google tuxedos in the area, and I get Mr. Formal Wear popping up. And Justin, who's a local guy who owns the place, Saratoga Springs native, went to Siena College. I popped into his shop in Clifton Park. He's got a place in Saratoga Springs as well. I said, Justin, what can you do for me? Just give me the basic version. I just need a black tux, black tie, let's go. And he was able to pull it off. So instead of just Googling for a place to get a tuxedo for prom or wedding season, that's why we're telling you about Mr. Formal Wear. And Justin's a great guy who, like I said, is from here, wants to do big things in his community, has had the business for more than 7 years now, and with prom and wedding season coming, the snow is gone, spring is almost here. Spring is here today? Wednesday.
Today, Wednesday.
Spring is here today.
How about that?
So you know the proms and weddings are coming, whether you need a tux or a suit, Justin will hook you up. MrFormalWear.com, check him out in both Clifton Park and Saratoga Springs. He will take care of you and make you look good.
Which is hard to do in some cases, like for us, for instance.
Sure.
So we have one sponsor. It's a formal wear company.
Right.
And I'm wearing a polo.
Right. Well, this is another guy, though.
Well, you know what, though? I'm just kidding. These are great. These are
nice,
like
man.
this.
Yeah.
You can wear this, you know, not on the show, too. You can wear this in public and actually look good, which, again, is hard to do for us, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. All right. Jordan Sperber's going to make us look good because he's going to help us make the right pick. Now, he's going to make predictions. Sean and I will do that based on who we've already kind of picked or which way we're leaning, but Jordan is going to tell us why or why it may not be a very good idea.
All right.
Now, here's what you get without commercials.
Yeah.
You get live scene change.
Love this.
Right? So in Broadway, they drop the curtain.
Yeah.
Right? You hear all the commotion. We're going to show it to you.
No curtain.
No curtain.
This is good.
So let's bring
this.
Jordan in. Come on in, Jordan. Jordan's a Bethlehem grad, went to Villanova. He's worked on a couple of different college basketball staffs, Nevada, New Mexico State. They're in the tournament. So's Nevada. Nova's in. We're going to get his take on those 3 programs as well. What jumped out to me, though, Jordan, is some of the people you've worked with analytically. Ken Pomeroy, who, of course, does huge things in the game of college basketball, draft research for the 76ers, and I know you were involved with the Siena basketball program as well, kind of getting them up to speed on why analytics in basketball is important. First of all, how old are you?
I'm 25.
25.
Wow.
25, and the guy's accomplished so much more in his life than I have.
Maybe ever will.
Oh, there's no doubt, unless I win that Powerball.
There's water here.
There's water. It's only water. Jordan's on Twitter at HoopVision68, and if you go to his Twitter page, you'll find a link to the Hoop Vision NCAA Tournament Bible, which you can purchase, which will give you it will give you all of what you're going to get some of here today, and you can also sign up for the weekly college basketball newsletter that Jordan's got out, which is very cool. I remember, man, you were a shooter back in the day, really good basketball player at Bethlehem. So Let's talk a little bit about where analytics are in this game. You got hooked, what, sophomore year in high school? How early on was it for you?
Yeah, junior year, I started what is now the brand, basically, Hoop Vision, and really my senior year at Bethlehem, I played for Coach Irons at Bethlehem, and I kind of put Hoop Vision aside because I had a really good year, and I was so invested in the season for Bethlehem. And then I went to Villanova. I played on the club team at Villanova and started blogging more and more. I did a guest post for Ken Pomeroy's website and had a couple of decent little breaks, and that's when Division I coaches started reaching out. So Eric Musselman, who is pretty well known at these days, and obviously they're in the tournament. I'm sure we're going to talk about them. Was the first coach to reach out to me and the first one that hired me eventually. And then the last 2 years I was at New Mexico State. I was in the tournament last year, so this time last year we were, I guess, getting a police escort to our practice for at New Mexico State. So I went to 2 tournaments, a part of that coaching staff, and now I'm doing the sort of media stuff.
Musselman's not an old guy by any means, and I like his style of play, which tells me he's kind of open to a new age of basketball. But how hard is it to sell some of the more really super successful head coaches on looking at the numbers to kind of make up your mind as to how you should play and who you should play?
Yeah, definitely. I was fortunate because I worked for 3 head coaches, and obviously they had an affinity for it if they hired me in the first place.
Yeah, sure.
But that's not always the case, especially in college basketball. There's these coaches that are almost like institutions, like a Coach K or a Roy Williams. And that's not to say that they all have varying aptitudes for analytics, but they've been very successful for a very long time, and so they don't necessarily need to adapt if they don't want to.
There's something analytic about Zion, right? I know he's 6'8" and 260 or whatever he is.
No doubt. And one application that we used analytics for was recruiting. Who to take, and a school like Duke or Kentucky, you're getting the best players. So it's probably not quite as relevant. One area where they probably do still use it is scouting, I would think. And I know that Coach K has mentioned Ken Pomeroy before. I think he might have had him like on a radio show or something like that. So it's not like these coaches aren't at least cognizant of it.
So what goes into kind of selling a coach on analytics? I mean, I'm sure there might be a lot of non-believers or people who might just say, you know what, I can trust my gut, trust my eye. I've been doing this a long time. What goes into sort of telling them, no, here's why this actually does work?
Well, there's a lot of money at stake in college basketball coaching, and so if you can win games, that's kind of, that talks. A big thing is talking about all the different areas. When people think about analytics, I think maybe the first thing they think about is 3-pointers. That's been the takeaway, which is valid, and then maybe NBA draft kind of stuff. Using analytics to try to tell you who to draft. They don't necessarily think about heavy game planning and opponent scouting, the recruiting side that I just talked about a little bit. We even would use it for like marketing within our program. So when a recruit came on campus, every recruit wants to go to the NBA, right? That's everyone's goal. Well, we would say we have analytics in our program like the NBA does. You're getting things that the NBA is getting. So it was opening up coaches' eyes to all the different ways, and then obviously working really hard at it too.
All right, so you were at Nevada, you were at New Mexico State. Is there a program other than those 2 that you're aware of that heavily uses analytics, maybe more than somebody else?
The first program that really jumped in was Butler with Brad Stevens. That I might not have gotten my jobs if it wasn't for Brad Stevens. I think that might be safe to say. It's hard. It's not quite as secretive as the NBA where no one tells anyone anything, but there is an element of secretness. If you're doing something good, then you don't really want to tell everyone. But yeah, it's I would say that of the 68 teams, most staffs have someone. Now, it might not be a full-time person, but have someone doing some form of analytical work.
So I feel like there's a perception out there that with the analytics, it's 3-point shots or getting to the rim, right? Free throws, layups, dunks, and 3-point shots. Basically, it's kind of being blamed on taking the mid-range out of the game. Is that true? And is there still a place for the mid-range in basketball?
So I always say the math is pretty damning on the mid-range. Like it's tough to be an efficient team while shooting a lot of mid-range shots. But really, that is heavily applicable to the NBA. But in lower levels of basketball, so if we wanted to go to Capital Region basketball, like a high school basketball game it's not just your shot selection determining. A big thing is taking care of the ball, for instance,
right.
which doesn't, I mean, obviously turnovers are bad in the NBA, but it's just not all equal. And so Division I college basketball is somewhere in between. And there are teams that have made a living, North Carolina, off of offensive rebounding. They're good every year off of offensive rebounding. And some of those offensive rebounders don't really take threes, they take mid-range jumpers. So it's the trade-off between the shot selection and the other parts. Defense also in college basketball. In the NBA, it's easy to find a shooter that can play defense. In college basketball, it's not quite as easy, so that's...
So it sounds like if you're going to get a significant number more possessions than your opponent, be it offensive rebounds or creating turnovers, you can be a little more liberal in the mid-range game because you're just going to have so many more possessions than your opponent that it doesn't always have to be a three or I say a three or a guarantee, which is a layup or a free throw. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, so to that point, one more on. So then, pace of play. So we've really obviously seen a total shift in so many more possessions now, especially in the NBA. It's just crazy and way high scoring games. And the league used to be like that, where it was up and down, real high scoring, and then we saw this like huge
the early
slowdown.
80s, it was crazy, right?
Yeah.
And if you just go back and look at the average scores back in the early 80s, it was wild.
Right, and then this huge slowdown, like of when we were growing up, the 90s, it was like games in the 80s and like low 90s. Like you could win a game 92-90, and like now that's the third
quarter.
Yeah. So do you think we can ever shift back to that now, or this is pretty much how it's going to be?
Yeah, the NBA team that has almost tried to be shifting back is like the Spurs with LaMarcus Aldridge. It'll be tough to. So one of the things that is happening right now in the NBA and in college is everyone is switching everything, and to attack switches, you need to start posting up a little bit more. That's the reason why teams switch are because your offense, your screens and your cuts, they're not going to work as effectively. You stay out of rotations from switching. And so the response to that is to post up more and to ISO more. But it's still not, at the end of the day, it's not great offense. It's just what you have to do. So as coaching and as kind of basketball theory starts to figure out these switches, that will probably determine the answer to your question, I think.
And that's why we've seen really the absence of the big guy, because you can't have them on the perimeter switching everything. Steph Curry puts them on their butt with some crossover dribbles, and there's a 7-7 guy in the tournament this year, Taco Fall. I wonder how he kind of translates to the NBA. How about Bol at Oregon, who was easily going to be a top 5 pick, probably, if not for the injury this year. Are they able to translate to the NBA? I want to ask you just one thing, Jordan, before we go over to the board. And we're joined by Jordan Sperber. If you're just joining us here on the 104.5 The Team Facebook page, check him out on Twitter at HoopVision68. The plus minus. I love the plus minus, but I think to somebody like you, it's such a vanilla stat. Give me something that doesn't show up on ESPN.com that people should be looking for. That's maybe a little bit of a better number, a better metric to judge a player's success.
Yeah. So at least college-wise, we don't have all the tracking technology that the NBA does to really dive into some advanced defensive stuff. But for offense, we can measure offense pretty well on a player level. So there's 2 stats that kind of work in tandem with each other. And the first it's called offensive rating, which is how efficient you are. So basically points per possession for that individual player. And then the other stat is called usage rate, which is how often you're used in a given possession. So John Morant from Murray State, the lottery pick, very high usage player. An example of a high efficiency guy would be a big 5-man center who just dunks a lot.
Or even Zion, right? I mean,
well, Zion's both.
Super efficient.
Yeah, he's both. He probably doesn't have as high of a usage as you would think because he has another really, really good player in RJ Barrett. If he was on a different team, it would maybe be different. But yeah, so that's probably, it's hard to get a catch-all number for a player. But if you have a couple numbers and sort of understand the context behind it, that's probably the best look.
James Harden's usage would be off the charts.
Yes.
Is he efficient?
Yeah, in part he's so efficient because of the lack of mid-range that we talked about. So he's almost been engineered to be efficient. In a previous era, a James Harden type player would probably not have been efficient. Russell Westbrook is another really good example. He has sometimes been efficient, sometimes not been efficient throughout but always been high usage for his career.
Can Harden get to the line? Man, oh my God, it's ridiculous.
More than 20 times a
It's
game.
insane.
All right, let's get to the whiteboard.
Great.
Let's get to the whiteboard. We've got a bracket ready for you, and it's dry erase. So I'll make
a lot of dry erase in this show.
Yeah, that's the best way to go, man. I make a lot of mistakes. I like to be able to erase them.
This might be one of them.
I'm going to take care of the East and the West regions, mainly just because I'm right-handed.
Right.
Sean's going to take care of the South and the Midwest regions.
Yeah.
And Jordan's going to tell us whether or not our pick is a good idea, why it may not work out for us. So we'll see how deep we can go. If we get all the way to Minneapolis in the Final Four of the national championship game on April 8th, we will do that. Scene change.
Scene change.
I got you, man. All right. Here we go.
Look out.
All right, Jordan, I'm going to start us, man. And if I'm blocking your view, you won't need to worry, because guess what? Duke is moving on. Okay?
I think that's safe to say.
Duke is going forward. And you know what? How about, can you tell us anything interesting about North Carolina Central and North Dakota State?
Man,
If we're watching the first four tonight, what should we be looking for anything in particular?
well, NC Central's coach, Lavelle Modem, he said after they got picked, they said, how do you feel about going up against Zion or whatever the case may be? And his answer was that us playing against Zion is like me playing against my 6-year-old kid. So a candid guy, and that's pretty funny to hear from a D1 head coach.
Can he get to Zion? Can he beat North Dakota State?
I think North Dakota State is probably slight favorites in that game, but it will be pretty difficult for either team.
All right. I can't wait to see this matchup. VCU, as you know, they play fast. They love to get up and down. They'll press you. They run, they jump, they do all that stuff, every cliche that people use when talking about a high-tempo team. UCF, though, we talked about Taco Fall. They say he's 7'6", maybe he's even 7'7". That would be an interesting matchup against Duke if UCF can get by. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to go UCF because I want to see them play Duke. Is Central Florida able to get by VCU? What do they do well enough against a team like VCU?
Central Florida, you mentioned it with Taco Fall. They have two really good scorers, too, besides Taco Fall. Actually, the coach's son, Johnny Dawkins' son, Aubrey Dawkins, is a really good player. And then B.J. Taylor is their other really good scorer. They play really good defense. They obviously have a 7'6" guy manning the paint, and he doesn't move out of the paint too much, so that would be potentially a good matchup if you don't have a center that can make Taco Fall have to move too much, and that's why it could be an interesting matchup against Duke.
All right, I'm not going to make a pick yet on 5-12. We know everybody is convinced that 12 always beats a 5. The numbers don't bear that out, though. It somehow has become like urban legend in a way. Is Liberty in a spot where they could really knock off the Bulldogs? Do you know anything about Liberty and the matchup against Mississippi State?
Yeah, we were actually in the 5-12 game last year at New Mexico State, and 5-1 all 4 games last year. Unfortunately, would have liked that to shake out differently, but. Yeah, Liberty is a good team. They can shoot it really well, and then they have a big guy in the middle who is constantly stealing for post position, and you can't help because of all the shooting around them. I think Mississippi State has been pretty quiet this year relative to the fact that they got a 5 seed, and they're talented. The SEC in general is talented. It should be a good game.
All right, you didn't sell me enough, so I'm going Mississippi State here. And then I'm not even going to ask you here. We'll move on. I'm going Va Tech. This one, though, so many people are tuned in, and we know it's Belmont now after last night. Belmont and Maryland. Belmont's coach has been there 33 years, more than 800 wins, I think.
Yep.
His first tournament win last night. They're riding high. We talked to Dalen Cuff, who's an ESPN college basketball analyst and played his college hoops at Columbia, and he foresaw a Belmont-Yale matchup in the round of 32. Let's talk about those two double-digit seeds. How about Belmont and Yale, chances that they could move forward?
Well, first of all, I think everyone who played in a conference is fairly biased towards that conference.
And he even said, you know what, I know I was an Ivy guy and I'm going Yale, but yeah, he did mention that first.
I didn't play, but I coached in the WAC, and I love all the WAC teams. So, yeah, I would imagine that Yale is good. They have an NBA guy on their team. LSU has a couple NBA guys on their team. But Belmont, a big thing with them is their 5-man, Nick Muszynski, he came back last night against Temple. He was hurt in the OVC championship game to Murray State, and they run a lot of offense through him. Dylan Windler is Belmont's star, but Muszynski played well last night, looked a little bit hobbled, and he'll be important. Maryland has Bruno Fernando.
Yep. And they're one of the youngest teams in the country.
They are.
Didn't get to the tournament last year, so there's no experience really to lean on if you're Mark Turgeon and the Terps. I'm going to do it. I'm going Belmont here.
Wow. All right.
First, maybe like major upset, I guess, if you will. And you know what? Jordan, I'm doing this, man. I know, and I'll use this as my reasoning. LSU is going through some real controversy. Don't have their head coach. Did not look good in the SEC tournament. So I'm going to take a shot. We get Yale Belmont, which would guarantee a double-digit seed going to the Sweet 16. 7-10s are always interesting, and you know the committee had some humor here to put Rick Pitino's former team up against Richard Pitino, his son, Louisville, Minnesota. How about the Cardinals and the Gophers? What is it maybe about Minnesota that gives them a shot to knock off Louisville, who I think is a good team?
Yeah, I agree. When the bracket came out, I thought Louisville was a little underseeded. They analytically, like if you look at Ken Pomeroy's rankings, who we talked about, they've been around a top 20 team all year. So 7 seed is well, it's because of their resume as opposed to how good they are necessarily. But they're tough. If I was Michigan State and I had to play Louisville in the second round, Michigan State was in the running for a 1 seed, I would not be exactly thrilled with the committee.
And I'm going the Ville there, and I'm going Sparty here. Shawnee, why don't you jump over to the south here?
All right.
Before we move on to the west.
Let's do it. Take that marker there. All right. All right, Jordan. So we got Virginia and Gardner-Webb.
Tough one.
There's probably a law firm somewhere, Gardner and Webb, that would have as good a chance against Virginia. They lost to UMBC last year. That's gone, right? Nobody's thinking about that. They're the number 1 seed. This is easy, right?
Yeah, Virginia's really good. They're really good.
All right. So let's just do that.
I'm rooting for Virginia to win this whole thing.
You got them all the way.
Well, after the way Tony Bennett handled everything last year, they're really good. They played Duke tough both times this year. I'd love to see that happen.
Oh, this is a good one. Oklahoma, Mississippi 8-9 matchup here. Oklahoma, not great, right, in the conference. They get bounced in the first round of their conference tournament. Are they moving on there, or what do you think about this kind of coin flip game?
Yeah, Oklahoma, they had a good stretch in the beginning of the season where it looked like they were playing better without Trae Young. Now, obviously, they had Trae Young last year.
Right.
And then Ole Miss, it's Kermit Davis's first year as a head coach there. And they have probably exceeded expectations more than anyone in the country, which it's hard to say if that will continue or not in the NCAA tournament. But they that's kind of the matchup.
Boy, Chris, you know what? I think, I went Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oklahoma. Let's do it.
Boomer Sooner.
Oklahoma. All right, Wisconsin, Oregon here. Oregon, pretty hot right now. They seem to be a 12 that a lot of people have targeted. What do you think about them?
Yeah, they won the Pac-12 tournament. They play a lot of zone, play a matchup zone. Their guards are really active in the zone, go for steals. Wisconsin obviously has Ethan Happ, which he's a really good one-on-one player. He should be good against the zone as well. But that will be the matchup to see if Happ is effective against the Oregon zone.
Everybody's picking Oregon.
I know.
Everybody.
You know what? I picked Wisconsin.
All right.
Okay. So let's go Wisconsin here.
When everybody's picking a team, it just feels like you've fallen in love too much with the 5-12 seedings. I know Oregon was great to start the year, but again, no bowl.
Okay, so what about this? Is it 13? Are a lot of people picking UC Irvine? This game's in California, isn't it? Is this in San Jose?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Does that help them at all? Does that give them a chance at upsetting Kansas State?
We played UC Irvine last year, actually, at Irvine, and they are one of the biggest teams in the tournament, which is a little bit of a surprise. Usually mid-majors are a little more undersized. They are number 1 in the country in defensive 2-point percentage, so it's really hard to score in the paint against them. On the flip side, they have a lot of big guys, and they're not very mobile necessarily, right? So you have both dynamics going on there. But Kansas State doesn't have a ton of shooting, so if I was UC Irvine, that's exactly what I would have wanted, a team that doesn't shoot it that well.
And doesn't have their big guy, Dean Wade.
Exactly, who does shoot it a little bit well, yeah. But I mean, that's not to say Kansas State got a 4 seed. They play really, really good defense. You know, this is not a given upset, but I do like the matchup a little bit.
All right. Well, you know, in my uneducated guess last night, I went Kansas State. I've now been educated.
There you go.
So we're going UC Irvine here. Boy, we got a 13, Chris.
I like it. I've got an 11 and a 14 over here.
Yeah, all right, so let's get down to the defending national champs here. Nova taking on St. Mary's in a 6-11 game. What do you think about the defending champs now?
Yeah, it's my alma mater. A little biased there. And another team, we played St. Mary's last year as well. They whooped us. We beat Irvine, by the way. But
there you go.
but St. Mary's beat us 92-74. It was not a pretty sight. They obviously just beat Gonzaga, who I'm really high on,
and held them to 49 points or something like that.
Exactly. So they play a very slow pace, both offensively and defensively. They're not as talented as last year. St. Mary's didn't make the tournament last year, and they had better players. But they've been playing well regardless. And Villanova, for them, they shoot a lot of threes, and they're good at it. But they shoot a lot of threes.
Shoot a lot of threes. I'm going with the analytics here, Chris.
Yep.
I'm taking Nova. Okay, Purdue, Old Dominion. Purdue, the 3 seed here. You like Old Dominion there? Maybe as a 14.
Old Dominion, another team with some size for a mid-major. Purdue runs some of the best offense in the country. They're an offense first team. Carson Edwards is the star there, but really it's the system that is I think they probably run their offense as well as anyone in the country. But yeah, defense would be Purdue's weakness.
All right. Well, that being said, Purdue, right?
Yeah.
This is an easy one. Okay, Cincinnati, Iowa. Interesting game here in Columbus. So Cincinnati, a little home advantage there. Does that help them?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's done research. This would be a good analytics project on where the location of the game is for a neutral site game like this. But yeah, obviously Capital Region fans are pretty familiar with a Fran McCaffrey team, that style of play. Cincinnati plays a matchup zone where they switch everything, and that's their we talked about Purdue being an offense first, while Cincinnati's a defense first, and then yeah, Iowa is still doing what Siena did back in the day, playing really fast, and yeah.
I love Mick Cronin at Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I really do.
You got a Jason Kidd jersey behind you there. That's my jersey.
Yep.
Who do you always throw all those alley-oops to, right?
Kenyon Martin.
All right. In honor of him, we're going Cincinnati.
Kenyon Martin, who didn't get to play in the tournament his last year at Cincinnati.
Right.
With a broken leg.
Still took him number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just write Tennessee, and we'll be done with it.
Yeah, Tennessee's an easy one here, right? You know, some people think, well, we'll get to that. All right, Tennessee. All right, there you go.
All right, we're going to go to the West here, and the one is Gonzaga. Now, full disclosure, I grew up going to a lot of FDU games as a kid. My mom was a professor there. Gonzaga moves on. This is the one so many people watching locally are interested in. Syracuse and Baylor, 8-9. It's funny, Jordan, when the bracket came out, I thought Cuse moves on easy. The more I've thought about it, the more people I've talked to, Baylor sounds like maybe a little more of a difficult matchup than I first thought.
Yeah, Baylor started out the season really poorly and then had like the biggest improvement from December to November or around there. It's actually zone defense versus zone defense. Baylor's not quite as well known for their zone as Syracuse, but they will play quite a bit of zone.
So this is going to be like watching paint dry.
It
and
could be a pretty ugly
the
game.
50s.
It could be a pretty ugly game.
Just a slugfest of two teams playing zone. Give me the Cuse, because I think that'll be an interesting matchup with Gonzaga if we get there. So I'm just going to vote in interest of a good second round matchup. Here's the 5-12, and I'm going 12 here, and then I'm going to let you tell me if this is a good idea or not. We talked about John Morant. He's an incredible scorer. He's going to be a top 3 pick. On the other side, you've got Marcus Howard, who's a little banged up, but one of the best scorers in the country as well for Marquette. Here's where I'm taking my jump at a 12.
Yeah, this is probably the first round matchup I'm most excited about because of those 2 point guards. I don't think they'll guard each other.
Yeah, which is too bad.
right. They both have 2 off guards that are the defensive specialists that will probably do the one-on-one defense. But yeah, I would personally lean towards Marquette. But John Morant is very good, and absolutely, everyone needs a 5-12 pick. So
yeah, I'm taking my shot at it. All right, the 4-13. I have love for the America East in this area, obviously, but this is Florida State. Okay, this is Florida State. They're too long. They might be too athletic for Vermont, who is really good, and they've got a great player in Anthony Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
I get all that, but I'm going Florida State here because of their length, and even a guy like Galley who could step out and shoot it.
Yeah, Galley is really, really good. Florida State is really talented. They have David Nichols, another
right.
Capital Region guy that people will know. I think that if you look at the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 in this region, just looking at those 4 teams, this might be the best region, and part of that is because Florida State's at the 4.
Yep, and Gonzaga was the 4th number 1, so maybe it makes sense that they'd be in the toughest region there.
Yep.
Buffalo's been a sexy pick all year. I went on a rant on the radio earlier this year when people were talking about Buffalo as this year's Loyola Chicago. I said this is a nationally ranked team start to finish. Buffalo's legit. They're not going to surprise anybody.
Yep.
Here they are as a 6th seed. I think Arizona State wins tonight. I'll make that pick. And then I'm going Buffalo here because I think they're really good, and I think they have a chance to even move in to the Sweet 16. What do you think of Buffalo, their chances? What would make them a good candidate to make a deep run?
Yeah, I love Buffalo because a lot of these mid-major teams, they can really shoot it or they have a lot of athleticism, and Buffalo kind of has both, and that's why they're a 6 seed versus a Murray State that's a 12.
Yep.
And so they're hard to guard. And yeah, they don't protect the rim that well. They don't have a big shot blocker. That would be the one weakness to this Buffalo team. But they might be the best mid-major in the field.
I'm going to let you talk about one of your former teams here because I'm going Texas Tech. I love them. I know they struggle to score it at times, but I like the Raiders. I like Chris Beard. How about Nevada though? I'm moving them through. Jordan, tell me why they could beat Florida.
Yeah. So. I was there, I guess, three years ago now, and there's only a couple players still there for the team. Obviously, they're very transfer heavy. That's where they've made their mark. The Martin twins are the 2 stars, as well as Jordan Caroline, who was there when I was there. It was his redshirt year, my year in Nevada, and we had just started recruiting the Martin twins when I got there, and all 3 of those guys could start for any team in the country. That just from a pure talent standpoint, that would be the reasoning behind Nevada.
I have some reservations about this year's team, just the way I've seen them play in certain conference games, but I like them all the same. I'm going there. Obviously, this is going to be Michigan for me, but I don't love Michigan. I don't love them. So we'll get to that in a second, but Shawnee's got the Midwest region.
Here we go. All right, so UNC here against the MAC champions. Let's just go ahead and get Carolina.
Put Iowa in there? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about Carolina, though, and what they would have to do to have a deep run, maybe win a championship.
Yeah, North Carolina can win a championship for sure. One thing that I talked about in the tournament guide that I did is everyone is taking North Carolina. Big name. They've been playing well at the end of the season, and so in a bracket pool, it's not only the percent chance that a team has to win, but also is everyone else in your pool taking them? The idea of a value pick.
Yep.
And so they're a good team. They can win the national championship, no doubt. But it's a lot of people in these pools have Duke and North Carolina.
Right.
And so that would be my note on the Tar Heels.
Glad to hear you say that.
He's telling you to be different.
Did
so.
take them all the way. Utah State, Washington here, 8-9. Utah State, they're hot, right?
That's an interesting game.
Yeah. Utah State has a freshman, 6'11". His last name's Keita, Neemias Keita. He's one of the best shot blockers in the country. He's a really good player. Washington has one of the best defensive players in the country as well, Matisse Thybulle. So those two guys are I would say this one's one of the best first round games of the tournament. Washington plays the same zone that Syracuse plays, that 2-3 zone. The head coach of Washington worked for Jim Boeheim. Yeah, I'm excited for that game.
All right. Utah State, 17 out of their last 18.
You're riding the hot hand.
Riding the hot hand.
All right. Aggies.
Okay, here we go. New Mexico State.
Yeah.
Sell us on them. 30 wins. 12 seed, obviously
Right.
taking advantage of conference there. Auburn, SEC champs. Sell us on why New Mexico State can pull this off.
Yeah, so Auburn was in our pod last year in San Diego. We played Clemson in the first round, but we would have played Auburn if we had won that game. So we got to live scout them. You know, you sit about 10 rows up and start taking notes on guys. And Auburn actually played pretty poorly against College of Charleston. The game we scouted, they're better this year. But New Mexico State, they play about 12 or 13 guys, so they're the deepest team in the tournament. Their bench plays more than any other team in the tournament as a percentage of minutes, and they play really good defense. They don't you would have to mention about 7 guys on New Mexico State to talk about their players because they're all pretty equal to each other. So if they win, they're going to do it by committee, and yeah, it'll be a fun one to watch.
Well, I'm not going to insult our first guest
Right.
here to
Come
the
on.
show. We're kind of
He's
on
doing us a
something.
favor.
Right, NM State. Okay. Kansas Northeastern down here in a 4-13. Talk a little bit about Kansas for us.
Yeah, Kansas was #1 in the country preseason, which tells you that they have a lot of talent. Hasn't necessarily turned out the way Bill Self would have liked this year. It was the first year in I think 14 that they didn't win the Big 12. And yeah, the Dedrick Lawson is really, really good. He's their star player. They've had some trouble defending the 3, which Northeastern does well, but they do have a lot more talent than Northeastern. So yeah, I keep kind of waiting for Kansas to start playing better, and it hasn't necessarily happened this year. And it doesn't mean it won't happen in March, though.
What do you think, Chris? I think we're going to have to move Kansas along, right?
Give New Mexico State their shot to beat the Jayhawks potentially.
Yeah.
Which would actually be a rematch. So New Mexico State lost to Kansas by 3, I think, in Kansas City this year.
There you
Okay.
go. Yeah, there you go.
All right, well, good. See, we're setting up a good matchup here. All right, Iowa State, Ohio State. Iowa State, I think they were 9-9. The Big 12 Buckeyes have a chance there. I mean, you like this as a coin flip game, or who do you give the edge to?
Yeah, it's a good game. The Iowa State has a lot of talent and has probably underperformed it a little bit this year. I think a lot of people were picking them to win the Big 12 at one point. Obviously, that didn't happen. They play a very aesthetically pleasing style of basketball. A lot of spacing on the court. They shoot threes, and and yeah, it's another. It's almost like Kansas a little bit, where they probably have underperformed the talent level a little bit, but they do have a lot of talent.
All right, let's see. I went Ohio State.
We
Okay.
went Ohio State in too far there. Oh no, you're good.
Yeah. All right, so Houston. Talk a little bit about them. You like them?
Yeah, they're in
Can they make a deep run?
They're in the American Athletic Conference, so they go a little bit unnoticed. They lost in that tournament. I think they could have been a 2 if they had won the AAC title, and then maybe more people would have been talking about them a little bit. Yeah, I've heard some people compare them to Gonzaga. Gonzaga's 30-3, and Houston's 31-3. Probably not the case. Gonzaga is good enough to be a 1 seed for sure. Houston is a really, really good defensive team, but a step below that top tier.
I love Houston.
I
love
knew you
them.
do. Yeah, I knew you were talking about them the other day.
Our buddy Andrew Catalan has had some of their games.
Yeah.
Love Houston.
Okay, the Pirates here have any chance? Seton Hall, can they take down Wofford? Talk about Seton Hall for us. You like them or no?
Yeah, Seton Hall had a good run in the Big East. They lost to Villanova in the finals of that tournament. Yeah, Miles Powell for Seton Hall is a really talented scorer. They have a lot of talent. Wofford has been playing extremely well this year. Again, a mid-major getting above a 8 seed is always tough to do just because of the conference they're in, and they got a 7. Another game that will be really, really fun to watch. And yeah, it'll probably come down to Miles Powell for Seton Hall.
Yeah, I took Seton Hall, but after
You
that,
don't
I'm not as
Wofford,
confident as I was last night. So Wofford, and I'm just going to go ahead and put Kentucky through here, Chris.
All right, we're into the round of 16 here.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, as much as I talked about liking this matchup, wanting this matchup, just to see Taco fall against Duke, it's Duke. Okay, we're moving Duke forward. I think they have a cakewalk to the Final Four, to be honest with you. Mississippi State and Virginia Tech. This was a 5-12 game that is a potential pitfall just because of the seedings. Should I be concerned about moving Virginia Tech this far should I be concerned of moving Mississippi State this far because they may lose here? Is it safer to just move Virginia Tech forward?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point when filling out a bracket, like the cumulative probability, I guess, if we want to nerd out about it. If you're taking an upset, it's probably wise to at least not that this is one, but just to give an example, it's probably wise not to go too far with it in case they don't win that first game.
So it's like hedging your bet almost
in
a lot of ways.
It is.
It's like, so
yeah.
I'm going to go Vod Tech, which would set up an interesting ACC matchup there in the Sweet 16. Here's the dream match.
You can't hedge here. You can't.
No,
hedge.
I'm taking a jump one way or another. But I'm going Belmont. Let's ride them. Sean's riding the hot hand with one of his teams over there, and Utah State. Give me Belmont here to get by Yale. Gives us an 11 seed into the Sweet 16. Louisville and Michigan State. I have a little bit of a concern with Michigan State. I love Tom Izzo, and he's made a ton of Final Fours, but they bow out early every now and then. Is this a spot where they could get tripped up by Louisville? What's the matchup like?
That's sort of the nature of the tournament, is that a coach becomes the master of March, and then 3 years later, he's not. I think Bo Ryan for Wisconsin was the opposite of that. He could never win in March. He could never win in March. Then he made back-to-back Final Fours, and that narrative goes away a little bit. But yeah, this will be a really good second round matchup. Michigan State's good. They're good, and like I said before, that Louisville is probably a little bit underseeded. Yeah, 2 really good coaches. Chris Mack's a really good coach too.
And you were a guard. Michigan State has one of the best guards in the country. Cassius Winston. I firmly believe, you can tell me I'm wrong, I have no analytic basis for this, point guards win this tournament. And unless you have a stud like Zion Williamson, I think Duke struggles if they don't have Tyus Jones. So
yeah,
give me Michigan State there because of Cassius Winston.
Yeah.
Fair? All right. Gonzaga and Syracuse. Before I write down Gonzaga, which I'm ready to do, can Syracuse do enough with that zone to throw Gonzaga off? The 2-3 zone, teams don't see it a ton. But Gonzaga did play Washington, right, this year? So they would have some recollection of that 2-3 zone. Yep. Can Gonzaga deal well with the Syracuse 2-3?
Yeah, they did play Washington. They have pretty good bigs to go in the middle of it. Rui Hachimura, pretty much everyone knows. And then Brandon Clark they're good in the center of the zone like that. I did a YouTube video a month or so ago called "Why Gonzaga is the hardest team in the country to guard." So I'm high on Gonzaga. I got quite a few comments after they scored 40 whatever to St. Mary's. It's a very popular video, and I can't be too mad about it. But I stand by it. They shot pretty poorly against St. Mary's, and they've been really, really good offensively all year. So I don't necessarily know exactly how they'll attack the Syracuse zone, but I would hope that they would figure it out.
Now that you're diving into this media thing, you'll learn any feedback. Any feedback's good feedback.
There you go.
So don't worry about the haters. Now, it's easy to hate once something has already happened. Murray State, Florida State. I came into this tournament really liking Florida State, but I'm enamored by Murray State. Yep. And I know John Morant's great, but he's not better than the sum of all the Seminoles parts in my mind. So I'm going Florida State here. The next one, though, I need your help on. Because I've been high on Buffalo all year, but I said it in the first round matchup. I love Texas Tech, but they struggle to score it sometimes. And Buffalo can score. Is this a spot where we see Buffalo move into the Sweet 16 and drop some of that Cinderella talk, maybe?
Yeah, this is a really fun matchup for sure. I like both of these teams a lot. So Buffalo is 5 out. They even in transition, where you see a lot of teams will run a big to the basket. They just all go to the perimeter, which is great for shooting threes, like we've talked about. Texas Tech, on the other hand, isn't probably not as good offensively as Buffalo, but they're the best defense in the country, Texas Tech. And so that will be interesting to see them handle the 5 out of Buffalo. Chris Beard is a really, really good defensive coach.
Yep.
And they have really good defensive players. Jarrett Culver's an NBA guy. I guess I'm not really helping you out too much.
No,
here,
that's
so
okay.
Like both.
You're affirming some of my beliefs here. As much as I love Houston on the other side, I've loved Tech for a while. I picked them to win the Big 12 at the beginning of the year. I'm gonna ride with Texas Tech. Nevada and Michigan.
Yep.
Can the Wolfpack do this? What is it about Michigan that maybe is deficient enough for Nevada to go and beat them?
Michigan is maybe the second best defensive team in the country. I think if we looked at Ken Pomeroy's adjusted efficiencies, that it would be Texas Tech 1 and Michigan 2. So they're really, really good defensively. They don't shoot it that great. That would be their deficiency. And Nevada will switch everything, I think, of what Michigan does, and so it goes exactly to what we talked about in the beginning. Will be attacking those isolations, which Michigan has good players. It's not to say that they can't do it, and I do think that they'll be able to get a lot of stops against Nevada.
I'm not really sold on this because I think even Florida could win that first round matchup against Nevada, but I also think Florida could beat Michigan if it ends up that way. So give me Nevada. I'm gonna roll the dice that 1, they get by Florida, and then 2, either team from the 7-10 matchup is able to beat Michigan.
All right, Jordan, back up top over here in the South. Virginia, pretty sure bet against Oklahoma, so let's move them on. And now this one here. Does UC Irvine have the firepower in a second round matchup against Wisconsin or Oregon, but in this case, Wisconsin?
Well, this is probably that same concept where who knows if UC Irvine wins that first game to Kansas State and it becomes hard. That doesn't mean don't take them, but if you're strictly trying to maximize your chances of winning your bracket pool, then that would be a reason to stay away from taking a 13 too far. Obviously, we've seen it in past tournaments; it can happen.
Sure.
But yeah.
All right. Well, look, this is the definitive bracket, so we don't want to ride too far with.
Until we erase it and come back next week with
Exactly.
your picks. Look, we got all right.
Okay, we didn't really go too deep on Purdue here the first time through. This matchup, if it is against Nova and the national champs, is this where the national champs make their exit?
That's a fun matchup. They both shoot a lot of threes. They're both really good offensively. Villanova doesn't have those NBA guys that they had last year. They run the same exact system though, just with a little bit lower caliber of player. But they have really good ones too. Eric Paschal will be in the NBA. Phil Booth, I'm not sure if he's an NBA guy, but he's a really good college point guard. And then Purdue has Carson Edwards. This will be, if these two teams play, it should be a lot of scoring and good basketball.
All right, I'm going to give the edge to Purdue here, Chris.
How about this? A defending national champ has
Yeah.
not advanced beyond the Sweet 16 in the following year since Florida in 2007 when they won back-to-back titles with Billy Donovan. Joakim Noah, Al Horford, all those guys.
Could just saved us all that time. You said that at the beginning. We'll get that out.
Well, but they can get to
Well,
the
they
Sweet
could
16.
I got you. All right, so Cincinnati here, Tennessee. Again, this could be sort of a home advantage. We've talked about, should be analytics on that at some point, but it's Tennessee just too good.
They're good. They have one narrative of picking NCAA tournament teams is senior leadership or veteran leadership, right? That's been there before, and Tennessee doesn't have like one and done guys on their team. From an analytics perspective, I'm not sure. We've seen Kentucky make deep NCAA tournament runs with all their one and done talent. I'm not sure if that narrative holds up with the data, but in Tennessee's case, it's not just experienced players. They're also good experienced players. Like Grant Williams is very good.
Yeah.
So we'll get the Volunteers through here. Tennessee. Okay, UNC, we can pretty much get them through to the Sweet 16 as well, I think. Down here, we did take New Mexico State, and now we got your rematch that you talked about with Kansas. Can they get it done in a rematch also in this year?
Well, theoretically, it should be easier this time around in Salt Lake instead of that game was at the Sprint Center in Kansas City. But yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. I'm an Aggie fan. I coached some of those players. I worked with that staff. But yeah, I would love to see them get to the Sweet 16. That's for sure.
Kansas is flawed. They're flawed. You talked about it early on that they haven't really played to their potential yet, which that's a two-sided coin. They're either going to play really well or they're going to continue on the trend if you believe what you've seen so far.
Okay, well, all that being said, sorry, man, we gotta go.
Kansas.
Yeah, I think so. We're a lot of chalk, but
I think
Is
it's
it that kind of year?
it's a chalky tournament.
Yeah.
I do.
all right. I'm gonna get Houston through here, I think, as well. And Kentucky, touching on a little bit. I mean, I guess they just not long ago thought they could probably be a number one in this tournament. They're getting through to the Sweet 16 also, aren't they?
They certainly have a lot of talent. They started out with the 30 whatever point loss to Duke on opening night, and they've been playing well since, especially of late. It's hard to say if it's a concrete trend or not, but it sure seems like these Kentucky teams peak later on in the season. They have about 4 or 5 freshmen, and then Reed Travis, who's a grad transfer from Stanford, who has been really good for them too this year.
How about P.J. Washington in a walking boot? I mean, and I said it's precautionary.
Yeah.
Precautionary of what? I mean, there's something there that maybe we don't know. I don't live my life in a walking boot just to make sure I don't injure my foot or ankle. Duke Va-Tech.
You like in red boots?
Yeah,
Those
well,
things.
boots, yeah.
Okay.
Virginia Tech has had great success, 4 straight years winning at Cameron Indoor, I think. They are playing this game at Cameron Indoor, though. They're in Washington, D.C. It's Duke, right? Or is this the spot I'll ask it this way, Jordan. Is this the spot where in the entire region Duke is maybe most susceptible to being knocked out?
Well, you said they lost to Virginia Tech. They didn't have Zion that game. Virginia Tech didn't have their best player, Justin Robinson, who is supposedly playing in the tournament. Duke could lose this game, right? It's sometimes the NCAA tournament feels like it's almost inevitable what's going to happen. It's not to say that they couldn't lose it. Duke will be favored in every game they play, and so. And yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech will certainly believe they're going to win the game. You know, they beat them earlier in the year, but that's what it is.
All right, so we're going Duke. We're going Duke, and I'm going to go Michigan State here without too much mystery. Can only take Belmont so far. Watch, they'll burn me, an 11 seed into the Sweet 16 or into the Elite 8. Gonzaga, Florida State. Some length on both teams. You love the Zags, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Gonzaga here too. I believe at some point a Leonard Hamilton team is just not going to get it done. So I'm going to go Gonzaga here. I like Mark Few. I like Rui Uchimura. Let's do it. Now Texas Tech and Nevada. What jumps out of this matchup to you about these two teams?
Yeah.
Against one another.
Well, I talked about how good Texas Tech's defense is. And really, even they played Duke at Madison Square Garden this year, and even Duke really struggled to score that game. They had like 15 games to start the season where they held opponents to under 1 point per possession, which is kind of the mark that you're looking for Texas Tech. And so yeah, they're probably my favorite defense to watch in the country. But I've said this a couple times about Nevada. I mean, they have as much talent as these high majors that they're playing. You know, they have very talented players.
I'm going Tech. Just because I've had this love affair with them all year, I'll go Texas Tech there. Duke, Michigan State. Yeah, I mean, a 1, a 2, a 1, and a 3.
I know. It's kind of how we're going here, and I'm going to keep it going with another one getting through with Virginia into the Elite 8. Purdue, Tennessee, if this matchup comes to be on the 2-3 here in the South, what could be the difference in that game to get to the Elite 8?
So Purdue is more guard heavy. Their guards are their scorers, Klein and Edwards, and then Tennessee is pretty inside heavy with Grant Williams. Admiral Schofield will go on the inside a little bit. So it might be a little bit of a style of preference in the team. Do you like the guards or do you like the bigs?
I'm really stuck on this one.
Dallin Cuff, who I mentioned before, he was on the radio show with us this morning. I said, if it isn't one of the 1 seeds winning the whole thing, who is it? He said Tennessee. I mean, he didn't even blink. He said Tennessee.
All right. Let's do it. Tennessee. Okay. UNC, Kansas. Let's just get the Tar Heels through again. And then Houston, Kentucky. This could be an interesting one, right? Another 2-3 matchup down there. What's the difference in that game?
Yeah, we're getting into the elite matchups of the tournament for sure. Both of those teams are really good defensively. Kentucky has a little bit more size, but Houston is they pressure you a little bit more than Kentucky. Usually, John Calipari teams they really don't go for steals; they just try to protect the rim. So that it'll be a defense first game. And yeah, UNC, Kansas, Purdue, Tennessee, all these matchups. I mean, that's the good part about not having upsets. You want to have upsets because they're fun to watch, but then it makes the Sweet 16.
Yep.
You know, like I mean, these are some good games.
All right, Chris, let's go Houston here.
Whoa! That for me is the real first surprise on your side of the bracket. Kentucky has all the talent in the world to win the whole thing.
Yep.
If they play well. Duke and Michigan State. Give me a reason why Michigan State wins this game, because I think everybody will just, blindly pick Duke. Give me a reason why Michigan State's a bad matchup for the Blue Devils.
Yeah. So if Michigan State were to win this game, I would think that it would be because of Cassius Winston in ball screens.
Okay.
So Duke, actually Marquise Bolden is hurt. He might be back by this point, but he has struggled to guard ball screens all year long. When they lost to Gonzaga, that was kind of the issue, guarding ball screens. Bolden actually got benched with about 15 minutes left in that game. They went away from it. And so this isn't something new. Like Coach K knows that they don't guard ball screens. I'm not inventing the wheel here. They're gonna try to do things to mitigate that. But that, Cassius Winston is a really good playmaker. That would be the scenario.
All right, so that's how they would do it. I'm going to say they won't do it.
I thought we were going to get them out right there. No?
When I first looked at the bracket, tell me if you felt the same way when you first took a real look at it. I thought, well, I get it, they're the top overall seed. They have the easiest road to the Final Four, in my opinion. I don't see a lot of difficult games for them, almost no matter how the bracket breaks.
Yeah, and that makes some sense given that they had the season that they had in the committee. But it's a lot of people that I really respect in terms of their basketball X's and O's knowledge, and even they are just like, well, they have Zion Williamson, and that's kind of where the conversation ends.
It's like in the East all these years, they have LeBron James.
there you go.
So
there you go.
he's going to find a way to get them where they need to be. Okay. Down low, the West region. Who's moving on to the Final Four here? Gonzaga and Texas Tech.
Yeah, well, like that matchup before was guards versus bigs. This is offense versus defense right here. So does defense win championships?
No, not in the NCAA tournament.
Villanova last year certainly was offense first.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a cliche. That the correct answer is scoring more points. You can do it with offense, you can do it with defense, but both of these teams are probably the best two at those given things.
Boy, I hope we get to see this one. But I'm going Zags. I'm going Gonzaga here, and no, I'm not happy that I've got 2 1 seeds in, because only once in the history of this thing have we gotten all 4 1 seeds to the Final Four. Maybe twice, if I'm not remembering correctly, but I think it was only once.
Yeah.
Shawnee, you got to help us out here. So you're going to have to pick somebody other than a 1.
I don't think I'm going to. But if this matchup comes to be, how does Tennessee beat Virginia?
Yeah, Tennessee runs this motion offense. So their head coach is Rick Barnes, who is friends with Bob McKillop, who was Steph Curry's coach at Davidson.
Sure.
Yep. And has installed Davidson's motion offense since he got to Tennessee, which is kind of fascinating because Davidson does not have a lot of athletes and size, and Tennessee does have all of that, and yet they're running that type of offense, and it's been really good. They've been a really good offensive team. Virginia has probably from start to finish. Obviously, Duke has the injury excuses, but Virginia has probably been the best team in the country just from start to finish. Tennessee's been really good too, but yeah, that's the matchup right there. Is that motion offense? Grant Williams, their big guys going up against Tony Bennett's defense, which is always really good.
Yeah, the guts. No, UVA.
Gutless. I'm absolutely gutless. Okay. Carolina, Houston. I'm leaning 1 seed again. Tell me why maybe I should.
You already took UNC to win it all. So.
Right, okay.
He's hoping you can talk him out of it.
Tell me why maybe that was a bad call there.
Houston, the defense. Okay. Corey Davis for Houston, he might have been the player of the year in that league, and if not, he was definitely close. They've been good. They've been top 10, top 15 good all year, just a little bit underappreciated because of the league that they're playing in. And UNC obviously has played really well at the end here too.
If this comes to be, who do you think has the better chance of knocking off Carolina, Houston, or Kentucky?
I would probably lean Kentucky.
Okay.
But it's all 3 teams are capable of making it to Minneapolis for sure.
All right, Chris. You want Carolina in?
Duke and Gonzaga, we've seen this movie before. Mm-hmm. We know how it turned out.
Yep.
I'm not going to pretend like, hey, it's tough to beat a team for a second time. We say it all the time about beating a team for a 3rd time in the same year. These guys aren't in the same conference. They don't see each other a lot. Are they vastly different than when they first met?
That's a really good question. The Gonzaga was without Killian Tilly that game, who has been hurt for most of the season, really, and hasn't totally been incorporated into what Gonzaga does. It's hard to say if by the time they meet that how healthy he will be. And Duke with the freshmen, you would think that they have improved.
They're sophomores by now, right?
Yeah, that's
the saying.
Exactly. It would be a good game. I think that there are things that Gonzaga can do that makes Duke, or that makes it hard for Duke to defend them. Mm-hmm. But I'll say it one more time. Duke has Zion Williamson. So.
But you did a video about how good Gonzaga is.
Yep.
So I'm going with Gonzaga.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, boy.
Duke's out.
Okay, Jordan. Virginia, UNC.
So they played each other, I think, only once. The ACC has an uneven schedule. Virginia won the game. Could be wrong. If I know Virginia, their only losses are 2 to Duke and then 1 to Florida State. So they definitely beat UNC at least once. And yeah, it's a contrast of styles. And then I'll try to lay it out for you to make the pick. So UNC plays really, really fast. They're famous for the Carolina break, right? So they get the ball out of bounds. Their center is running to the basket to rim run for an easy layup. They have a point guard, Kobe White, who's an NBA guy, who's pushing down the court. And Virginia's the opposite. So they're very methodical. They run a ton of screens in their half-court offense, and they do it at a really high level. They also have really good players. I don't think that gets talked about enough with Virginia, is that their players are really good. Ty Jerome's an NBA player. DeAndre Hunter's an NBA player. But it's fast versus slow. That's the matchup.
Don't all the analytics say fast is what wins? Pick up the pace, score more points, more possessions.
Yeah, so efficiency is really the key. So given how many possessions you had, how efficient are you being? And the answer is, and this isn't going to help you, is that they're both efficient. They're both efficient.
All right. Well, you know what, Chris? For the sake of this bracket, let's go Virginia.
Okay. Virginia and Gonzaga. I don't know how many. Maybe it's on a bunch of people's sheets, but Duke Carolina is probably the overwhelming championship game matchup out there. Duke Virginia probably has a lot of people talking as well. I think Duke, everybody's just kind of running them straight through. Gonzaga and Virginia. My rooting interest has been Virginia for a while here. You have the guts to take UVA to beat Gonzaga?
No, I was going to say Gonzaga.
All right.
Yeah.
Gonzaga.
Well, why don't we let Jordan break the tie here? If that's your championship, what are you looking out for?
These two teams, UNC, Duke. Well, they're the 1 seeds, the 4-1 seeds. They're all really, really good, and I think these two get talked about a little bit less just because it's not Duke and it's not UNC. I could definitely see either of these teams make the Final Four, win the national championship. They've been good all year. Gonzaga had to slip up at St. Mary's. I wouldn't necessarily be worried about that. Virginia lost to Florida State. There's always 2 ways to look at it. It's they're limping going into the tournament, or they're refocusing. So they're going to be refocused. Right. I would love to see this matchup for sure. And we talked about it. Gonzaga's really, really good on offense, and Virginia's good on both ends.
So we have a team that got beat by St. Mary's winning it all.
We do.
Sure we're clear on that.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah, until next week, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Under all chances.
Well, Jordan, we're going to let you get out of here. You did us a huge favor, of course, coming in. Shout out to Steve D'Agostino.
Definitely.
Who hooked us up with you. I call Dags for a lot of favors, and he runs certainly some of the best basketball camps and one of the best basketball minds in the capital region. Mm-hmm. He pointed me towards you. I'm glad he did, man. I remember you playing. And I've looked into a lot of your stuff here over the last couple of days. So at HoopVision68 on Twitter. Sign up for the College Basketball Weekly newsletter that Jordan's got going. Look for his book, the Hoop Vision NCAA Tournament Bible, where he takes a real deep dive. And you can't be a fan anymore. I don't believe you can be a fan anymore without paying attention to the analytics. There are a lot of people who are just dismissive. I don't want to hear about the numbers. I know what I'm seeing. Yeah, but you're only seeing what you're seeing because numbers people are telling coaches and players to play this way.
Teams, coaches investing a lot of time and money in this stuff. So no, you can't ignore it because they're not.
Well, we'll cut you loose, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Jordan Sperber with us here on Onorato and Bagnardi. I want to let you know that we're brought to you by Mr. Formal Wear, and it was a couple of years ago. I was in a tight spot, needed a tuxedo, very last minute. Found Mr. Formal Wear online. Just by Googling them, but now I'm here to make it a lot easier for you. Prom season's coming, wedding season's coming. Call Mr. Formalwear. Go to MrFormalwear.com. Seek out Justin, the owner. He's from the area, grew up in Saratoga Springs, graduated from Siena College. He will do right by you, more so than maybe a non-hyper-local business. You won't get the attention and definitely the care that you get from Justin at Mr. Formalwear, because he's a local guy, wants to make sure you are taken care of. Again, in Clifton Park, in Saratoga Springs, and at MrFormalwear.com, both tuxedos and suits. All right, Jordan, get out of here, buddy. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy the tournament. Enjoy the tournament. I'll take that from you, and you can go about your Wednesday. We'll make this a little more painful for everybody else still.
All right.
We've got Did You See This?
Okay.
Do you have Did You See This?
Yeah.
Did you do your homework?
Yeah. Did you see, this is a homer,
Yeah.
did you see the Nets
What, you know?
down 25
Yeah.
in the fourth, beat the Kings?
How's that possible? How do you go into a
I don't know.
fourth quarter down 25 points and still win that game?
I'll have to tell you next week because I was busy building shelves. I recorded the game. I didn't get to actually see it, but I saw it.
So
How great is that?
here's just a little.
I didn't see my first Did You See?
Yeah, didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
Here's a little insight to Sean. As you can tell with the stuff behind me, we'll explain the set here a little bit. Sean is he just likes teams that rhyme, Mets, Jets, and Nets, but he'll record all Brooklyn Nets games.
Yeah, everyone.
And go home and watch it after the fact. We both work at News Channel 13.
Work at night,
So
so-
we work nights, so typically you leave the office maybe somewhere around midnight, and you're back home to watch that thing until 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe a first half at night, second half. So you have not seen the comeback yet.
Didn't see the comeback
And
yet.
you make every effort to avoid the final score, but
I
now
did.
you know the final score.
I did, because coming in here had to be prepared for
Yeah.
anything you might throw at me, so I had to check the score. I'm very curious to see how they did it, to be honest with you.
I mean, D'Angelo Russell,
He's great.
44 points.
Look, he
is playing himself into a max deal.
yes, he made the All-Star team because Oladipo got hurt, but he deserved to be there. He's been an All-Star all season for the Nets, and they are where they are mainly because of him. But they've had a lot of other guys step up too, like Spencer Dinwiddie,
Yep.
and Karis LeVert. Back
Yep.
healthy's good, and Jared Allen's been good, but he's clearly the leader of that team.
Did you see FDU's win last night? And did you know what their head coach was going through earlier this season? Battling blood clots.
Yeah.
And now the Knights, along with Belmont, they get their first NCAA tournament win.
Yes, did see that.
Do you
that's-
believe that it's truly an NCAA tournament win being in the first four?
No.
Okay.
Look, I think for some of these like the 16s is where you don't love it, but the 11s it kind of feels like it is. You know what I mean? Do you agree with that or no?
No, I go the other way because the 16s, I'm cool with the teams that are typically a 16 seed claiming it as an NCAA tournament win, even though I don't recognize the first four as being part of the NCAA tournament, because that's good for the program. It lets them build it up a little bit.
Sure.
Hey, you Albany, did you win a tournament game? Yeah, we did. We did win a tournament game. It was in Dayton and it was in the first four, but we have an NCAA tournament win. I'm okay if you want to claim it as an NCAA tournament win. I just don't see those games as being part of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I agree, and I think sort of the NCAA doesn't even really either.
No, they
when they
couldn't.
went to
Look, it's in Dayton and it's on a Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right.
It's not part. And
they
and
changed it to the first
and
round,
Sean,
back to the first round.
the bracket. Right, it used to be the
used to
first
be
round.
second
Now
round,
it's the
yeah.
first four. And the bracket, if you're a 16 or an 11 this year, and you have a slash next to your name and then another name,
It's tough.
I
get it. I
not
know.
really in it yet.
I know.
Not really in it yet. But FDU is in it. I think Arizona State gets in it tonight by beating St. John's. And then we took North Dakota State, I believe, over North Carolina Central. So North Dakota State and Arizona State would be my two picks tonight. You gonna watch the games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Unless you have another shelf you need assembled for the set.
No, I think this set is built and ready to go. And shout out again to Elevation 10,000. Thank you for all their help in helping us design some of this stuff. Plenty of thanks to go around here at the radio station at 104.5. The team, our market president Kevin Rich, for green lighting this project. Let's hope he doesn't have a finger on a button to turn a red light on. Justin Abbott, who is our sales manager here, he is gung-ho about this show and this project, so we thank him certainly for that. Doug Priest is working behind the scenes here, but he's our web manager. There's got something better for you. I don't call you Digital Doug, but there's got to be web manager just doesn't seem to really fit the bill. Shout out to Doug for helping us with a lot of the tech side of things, and anybody at the station who's supported this. Certainly, I'm only here at 104.5 The Team because of our buddy Roger Weiland, who brought me in on his show, and it has allowed me to kind of grow into a little bit more of a role here at the station. So we're live every Wednesday on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right here on the 104.5 The Team Facebook page.
We'll give Roger some Mike Nikes.
We will. We'll get Roger some Mike and Ike's as a thank you. He's addicted to those things. Come back, hang out with us next week. We're going to have Albany head coach Will Brown in studio with us. We'll find out how many of our picks are dead wrong. More or less than 50% of our picks are wrong this time next week.
Oh no, we'll do way better than 50%.
Okay, we'll find out.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get 75%.
All right, 75%. Sean says Will Brown will be here next week to help us through the round of 32 I should say the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight as we'll fly through this tournament. We always do, and we'll get you ready for baseball season because I know the Mariners and the A's played today, but nobody saw it.
Do you like that?
That should have been. And did you see it? I didn't see
No.
5:30 in the morning.
Did you miss it?
I missed it completely.
Do you like that? Obviously, you're kind of seeming like you don't. Do you like that? Start the season.
No, I don't mind it. That's fine.
Here's what I don't
I like that Ichiro's playing in Japan.
Fine, beautiful. Here's what I don't like: playing a regular season matchup, and then you still have more spring training. That's no
I
good.
agree. That's stupid.
no good.
Yeah, just let them come home and relax for a few days.
Yeah.
And then start the regular season
Come
when
on.
everybody else is, which is pretty much the 28th. So Wednesday next week will be the day before everybody really kind of gets going to Major League Baseball with the regular season. We'll get you prepped certainly for the Major League Baseball season as well with some division picks. We'll do MVP, Cy Young, all that award stuff to get you going there. Well, I don't know, successful or not. This was fun.
You upset about playing Matthews?
No, I'm good. I'm
You're
a
okay.
Packers fan, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Packers, Braves. No, I'm good. He had a good run. It's time to move on.
Okay.
You know?
Good.
Most relationships run their course.
Oh boy, here we go.
This one will too, soon. The sign will be different soon.
You
I have
stick her
no
right
doubt.
over Bagnardi.
All right, Shawnee. Fun
man.
stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
The launch is done. Thank you all for watching. Come back, hang out with us next week, Wednesday at noon, right here on the 104.5 The Team Facebook page.